with ruling elite. What can New Delhi do in these times? Ahead of the 22nd round of military talks between India and China, reports suggest positive progress on de-escalation and disengagement in the over 4-year standoff between the Himalayan neighbors. Fresh trouble brewing in Pakistan as Pakistan Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif is set to bring a new law to create a federal constitutional court that will supersede the country's Supreme Court. As Sharif tries to shore up the numbers in both houses of parliament, the bill will tame the Pakistani judiciary and end even a modicum of judicial independence. As the conflict in Lebanon deepens, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejects ceasefire plans. Reports suggest Israel is planning for a ground invasion that is set to escalate the crisis in the region. And clamour for India to be given a permanent seat at the United Nations grows. 3 out of the 5 P5 members, that's US, UK and France, back India's bid. On to the big story on the show, the growing anti-establishment trend in India's neighborhood. Sri Lankans elected Kumara Dissanayake because he represented an anti-establishment choice. Follows what happened in Bangladesh on the 5th of August when Sheikh Hasina's 15-year reign came to an abrupt end. The same script is now playing out in Pakistan with sea of Imran Khan's supporters seeking his release. In all these situations, it's the interplay of anti-incumbency with a popular desire for change and economic conditions that disproportionately hurt the poor that was evident. Fractured polity added to the anti-establishment mood. As economic situation remains grim, as in the case of Sri Lanka, Pakistan and Bangladesh, India must brace for volatile electorates as public disenchantment is likely to stay. Before we go ahead, listen in to what Dr. Jaishankar had to say about these grim realities in the neighborhood.
We were doing it as a good neighbor who did not want to see that kind of economic meltdown at our doorstep. In the case of Bangladesh, I would say it's a little bit different. What we have done over the last, particularly over the last decade, is to do projects of various kinds which have been good for both of us. That, economic activity overall has picked up, logistics of that region has improved, and I think, both countries have gained a lot out of that. So I would urge you not to be deterministic about it. It's not as though India is seeking to control every political move of every neighbor. That's not how it works.
That's just not how it works, actually. India is far bigger than its neighbors. Its neighboring countries share a border with India, but not with each other. And this is fanning a sense of vulnerability to India's size. India's neighbors are also deeply connected to New Delhi on cultural, religious and civilizational bonds. And as they assert their separate identity as nations, their policies often add to the complexity that is the subcontinent. So what should India do? New Delhi's approach should be to continue the engagement, whether it's on bilateral trade, whether it's on aid or grants, or whether it's the people-to-people connect. As the size of the Indian economy grows to 7 trillion, possibly 10 trillion in coming years, the size of all these engagement options will also grow significantly. But till then, as these smaller neighbors that surround India, they assert their separate identity and position, India will do well to help address the public disenchantment that is the root cause of the anger that we saw in the last couple of months. Shifting focus now to the first wide-angle story on the show, Pakistan's tryst with democracy and constitution. It's been a failed one. Its experiments with electoral framework have always ended with either the popular mandate being stolen or usurped, or worse still, elected prime ministers being behind bars, allowing the Pakistani army to be relevant and at the center of governance and also furthering its anti-India agenda. But what's happening right now in Pakistan could be the very last straw in Pakistan's constitutional framework. Shahbaz Sharif is trying to create a federal court that will sit on top of the Supreme Court of Pakistan, making it redundant. precipitated by Imran Khan's continued popularity and Shahbaz Sharif's desire to have a pliant judiciary. What he's trying to do, along with the army and the entire political class, is coming out with a whole host of amendments. Take a look at this report to know the extent of damage that it could do to Pakistan and its constitution. Imran Khan is popular, and nothing that the Pakistani political establishment does to stop him seems to work. In this year's rigged election, Imran Khan wasn't allowed to contest, and his party was stripped of its symbol too, leading to his members contesting as independents, an order that the Supreme Court later reversed. To ensure there are no more such judicial surprises, Pakistan's political class has come up with the unthinkable, making the country's Supreme Court redundant by creating a federal constitutional court. Known as the Constitutional Package, a legislation is aimed to strip the Supreme Court of its powers to adjudicate on constitutional matters, reducing it to appellate civil and criminal matters. National security issues will not be challenged. The appointment to the FCC will be done by the President and the Prime Minister, and a committee that will effectively end the present collegium system. The age of retirement for Supreme Court justices right now in Pakistan is 65, but for the proposed FCC, the age will be 68. This will mean most judges would like to extend their careers by being on the right side of the government. The legislative delay is only because Shahbaz Sharif is trying to shore up the numbers, since a constitutional amendment requires 2/3 majority, and the ruling alliance is short by 12 in the lower house and 9 in the upper house. But with all political parties united, it's a matter of time before Pakistan's judiciary is tamed. Pakistan's constitution has no sanctity. It barely survives 2 presidential terms. So it's hardly a matter of great surprise, but what's happening here, it means that the army's iron grip over the judiciary will be strengthened further, and Imran Khan's supporters will feel even more cheated than what they felt after the 8th of February election. In both these scenarios, there will be more volatility in a state that is fast-tracking its own descent. Second wide-angle story on the show, Prime Minister Modi's peace efforts in Russia-Ukraine conflict are not just limited to creating a conducive environment for talks to take place or restricted to delivering messages from the other side. It is in fact much more. It is in New Delhi's geostrategic interests that the war ends soon, which is why New Delhi's interests are far more. Before we talk about why it matters for New Delhi that this conflict ends soon, listen in to what Ukrainian President Zelensky said when he said that India must continue to play a role.
There is no separate UN charter for BRICS or for the G7. There is no separate Russian-Iranian UN charter or no separate Chinese-Brazilian UN charter. There is one UN charter which unites everyone, must unite everyone. We have to prepare the second peace summit to end the war altogether. And I invite all of you, all principled nations, to join us in this process, all who truly respect the UN Charter. We invite China, we invite Brazil, I have already invited India, we are working with African nations, with all of Latin America, Middle East, Central Asia, Europe, the Pacific region, North America, all.
So why should this matter to India? Well, the longer this war continues, the more likelihood exists that the Sino-Russian collaboration will only grow. In 2023, the Russia-China trade touched $240 billion. It's set to cross $300 billion this year. China is Russia's largest trading partner. Russia is China's 6th largest trading partner. The share of China's currency in the Russian domestic market has grown from 1% 2 years back to a whopping 30%. It's already the currency of trade. And military experts say that the collaboration between these two countries has in fact extended for making attack drones as well. Of course, Russia needs India, but Russia also needs China. And from an economic yet military point of view, the longer the escalation goes on and conflict goes on, the likelihood of this partnership between Russia and China growing closer is much higher, which is why, for its own geopolitical situation and commitments, it is very important for New Delhi to play an active role to ensure that this conflict comes to an end. All right, with that, we're slipping into a very short break. We come back on the other side with a very important conversation with Mukesh Aghi on the US-India ties and the semiconductor partnership. Stay with us.
लोन मिलेगा या नहीं, ये आपके क्रेडिट स्कोर पे डिपेंड करता है। तो आज ही अपना क्रेडिट स्कोर चेक करें फ्री में पैसाबाजार.com पर। लोन की जरूरत कभी भी किसी को भी पड़ सकती है।
ठीक से एक्टिंग नहीं।
पैसाबाजार.com।
I don't care for no songs and proses. I don't care for no sweet boys with roses. All I want is a touch of love.
For every news from every part of the country, डाउनलोड कीजिए NDTV ऐप। सिर्फ एक ऐप जो आपको बताता है क्या हो रहा है इन द वर्ल्ड ऑफ बिजनेस, पॉलिटिक्स, स्पोर्ट्स एंड एंटरटेनमेंट। देखना ना भूले हमारी मूवी युद्रा इन द थिएटर। रीड ऑल अबाउट युद्रा ऑन द NDTV ऐप। सो डाउनलोड नाउ।
लोन मिलेगा या नहीं, ये आपके क्रेडिट स्कोर पे डिपेंड करता है। तो आज ही पैसाबाजार.com पर जाइए और अपना क्रेडिट स्कोर चेक कीजिए फ्री में, क्योंकि लोन की जरूरत कभी भी किसी को भी पड़ सकती है।
बस एक्टिंग करा लो इनसे।
पैसाबाजार.com, क्रेडिट स्कोर चेक, आदत अच्छी है।
New day, new show, a new experience.
Start your day with the news, not views.
We bring you stories that matter.
And impact your life.
News that informs and keeps you ahead. From Maximum City, Mumbai,
To the seat of power, Delhi.
NDTV brings you the best breakfast show. Breakfast news on NDTV. 8 a.m. every day.
लोन मिलेगा या नहीं, ये आपके क्रेडिट स्कोर पे डिपेंड करता है। आज ही जाइए पैसाबाजार.com पर और अपना क्रेडिट स्कोर चेक कीजिए फ्री में, क्योंकि लोन की जरूरत किसी को भी कभी भी पड़ सकती है।
चल एक्टिंग थोड़ा भेल बनो।
ए आयो भाग बोल। पैसाबाजार.com।
Some people say the metaverse will only be virtual. One day this lecture hall will be made of code and driverless cars would be trapped in intersections. But even in this maze of the future, you can't wish away health. It's time to become more resilient. 10 years of Banega Swasth India, we have grown and achieved so many milestones. And now I have a plan to beat the urgency, to stop breathing with difficulty, to relieve getting choked with inactivity. Energize our government, our environment, our society.
Welcome back. This is India Sense. Now, Prime Minister Modi's visit to the US led to one of the most consequential agreements between the two countries, that is technical collaboration for creating fabs for national security requirements. This is a first for both US and India. It sets the framework for greater tie-ups between New Delhi and Washington. And joining me in this segment is Mukesh Aghi of USISPF to talk about the bilateral relationship and also the US elections, which are now in their last lap. All right, Mr. Aghi, thanks so much for speaking to NDTV. Let me start by asking you about the India-US relationship. It's amidst the tie-up that has been announced between the two countries. It's unprecedented and sets the stage for what else?
So I think you have to look at the our relationship a little broader, and then I'll come down to the specific question on chip side. You have a stress point taking place between US and China. And US has realized that its industrial base in manufacturing is in China, not in the United States. And for it to be able to deal in time of in a time of stress, either war or COVID, for example, it needs to be close to having its own industrial base, or with friendshoring, where it can depend on the supply chain. And so keep it in mind, also India-China relationship, which is at a stress point. So keeping that in mind, US and India realize that they need to work together to deal with the assertive and aggressive China. And US also has realized that its population is aging. It doesn't have the capacity to build a large industrial manufacturing base. So it has decided that it's going to partner with India to build that large industrial base, because the population of India is young. It's a very well-educated population, plus the market demand for products being manufactured in India will grow up, because it's a $4 trillion economy. It'll become a $5 trillion economy. So keeping that in mind, manufacturing chips is a natural progression. That's one of the initiatives. Today, every chip in the world is designed in India because we don't have the fabs, so they're not manufactured. So that's where US has taken the lead. Okay, let's start with the military chip manufacturing so you can supply each other on the defense side itself. So I think you will see not just on that, you're seeing that in GE jet engines now, partnership with HAL to be manufactured. You will see a lot of other areas. So I think the next few years, you'll see a massive deluge of manufacturing moving by the US companies into India.
That's a very important point. And in fact, staying with technology, Prime Minister Modi met the who's who of big tech in the US. Where do you see the tech collaboration going from here on between US and India?
So I think when you look at the track record, government don't run their businesses very effective and efficiently. And that's where the private sector plays a critical role, especially when you're looking at very high-tech manufacturing. So I think you will see effort both by Government of India and US government to bring in private partners. So for example, we're seeing now on the chip side, Tatas are getting involved. You have others getting involved. You look at on the plane manufacturing side, again, Tatas have done partnership with Airbus, with Boeing, with Lockheed. So I think while government will take the initiative, the execution has to come from the private sector.
Right. You mentioned friendshoring at the beginning of this discussion. Donald Trump is promising just that. How much do you think it will have an impact on countries like India if jobs go back to the US?
So I think, you know, if you look at Trump mentioned the same thing when he was the president. Yes, he did impose tariffs on Chinese goods coming in, but you know, who pays for it? It's the consumer. And we already have a inflation in the country we're trying to control. And by putting 60%, 200% tariffs on goods coming in from Mexico or other part, it is going to impact the consumer. And the basically economists are saying that this is not the viable way to build an economy, to build a manufacturing area. So I don't think by putting massive tariff, and we've learned this in India also, by having high barriers, it does not convince the companies to move manufacturing in India. It has to be pull and push strategy, like India has done by setting up PLI scheme to encourage in a positive reinforcement manner for them to set up manufacturing in India. So I think Trump's statements are very political. Past record shows that they were not executed. And I don't see in the future they're getting executed also. So I think India should not worry about from that perspective. It should just continue its momentum. and build on what's good for India.
All right, Mr. Aghi, we leave it there. Thanks much for speaking to me on India Sets. Shifting focus. All right, climate change is now not an issue that future generations will have to worry. It's the present generation because it's now a matter of grave concern. The emissions that are being released are now leading to underground fires from locations as disparate as the Arctic to Brazil. And it's the developed nations that cannot shy away from what they have done and must bear responsibility. This report is another grim reminder of the damage that has been done in 200 years of industrialization. Take a look.
This is the Arctic tundra, one of the coldest regions in the world, now home to the worst fire year since 2020. In fact, 8.6 million acres of Arctic tundra have been consumed due to blazes burning across Siberia for months to end. As humanity continues to tinker with the environment, the pushback from Mother Nature is now becoming even more intense. There are now a growing number of underground fires, from Arctic tundra to the peatlands in Indonesia, that move downwards. These emit massive quantities of greenhouse gases, undercutting all efforts to control the climate crisis. Arctic today is getting hotter. In fact, research suggests it's warming faster than any other region on Earth. And the carbon-rich peat under it that protects it from any fire is now drying up fast. In fact, it gets worse. The peat fires increase permafrost thawing, which releases methane, making the Arctic even hotter and continuing this cycle. In the next 2 to 3 decades, scientists say a third of the world's permafrost will disappear due to higher emissions. This could mean everything from present infrastructure like roads, bridges, etc., disappearing to present water bodies like lakes, rivers going underground and creating droughts. If this doesn't set alarm bells ringing, then what will?
All right, on to the quick take segment with crisp editorial views on issues that matter to India. Take a look.
By all indications, Israel's conflict with Lebanon is set to escalate. Israel's stated objective is that it wants to ensure return of all its citizens in the north who were forced to move in the wake of Hezbollah's repeated attacks. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced a ground invasion in Lebanon in coming days. Even as diplomatic community scrambles for solutions to prevent an all-out war, Tel Aviv is yet to come out with a clear political strategy. Its operational achievements have been spectacular in recent days, but to convert them into larger political victories requires a plan. At this stage, all Israel can hope for is a tactical escalation followed by a de-escalation on its own terms. Chinese economy got a booster shot from the government as fears loom large that the world's second largest economy may miss its growth target for the second time in 3 years. Chinese central bank announced major monetary policy stimulus like rate cuts, allowing banks to have more cash and bigger incentives for home purchase to kickstart growth. But cheaper money may not be enough to revive consumer spending due to the continued troubles in the property sector and looming job losses due to poor corporate profits. One-time cash handouts by China is a rare admission that its policies have had little impact. But a drastic fall in revenues from land sales have crippled indebted local governments' finances. And for them to invest in growth-boosting projects, the central government needs to do a lot more. Indian equity markets hit record highs this week as Sensex touched the 85,000 mark and Nifty crossed 26,000, both lifetime highs. These were a tribute to the growing equity culture in India, with a rising number of Indians now investing in markets. India is also witnessing large inflow of funds due to the combination of several factors. Fed rate cut has started a cycle of lower rates that will boost spends. Recession fears related to US economy seems to have reduced now, and positive global growth outlook is now a clear factor. As markets grow, some correction is bound to happen, but the trend is clear. India is said to be one of the largest recipients of foreign inflows, and government must do more to ensure that India remains attractive.
All right, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Sense. Thanks so much for watching.
लोन मिलेगा या नहीं, ये आपके क्रेडिट स्कोर पे डिपेंड करता है। तो आज ही अपना क्रेडिट स्कोर चेक करें फ्री में पैसाबाजार.com पर। लोन की जरूरत कभी भी किसी को भी पड़ सकती है।
ठीक से एक्टिंग नहीं।
पैसाबाजार.com।
Hi, I'm Kareena Kapoor Khan. When it comes to news, NDTV stands for trust, for integrity, for truth, for news that matters. Watch NDTV and don't forget to watch The Buckingham Murders अपने नजदीकी सिनेमा घरों में। कैसे मारा?
I don't care for no songs and proses. I don't care for no sweet boys with roses. All I want is a touch of love.
लोन मिलेगा या नहीं ये आपके क्रेडिट स्कोर पे डिपेंड करता है। तो आज ही पैसाबाजार.com पर जाइए और अपना क्रेडिट स्कोर चेक कीजिए फ्री में, क्योंकि लोन की जरूरत कभी भी किसी को भी पड़ सकती है।
बस एक्टिंग करा लो इनसे।
पैसाबाजार.com, क्रेडिट स्कोर चेक, आदत अच्छी है।
NDTV's युवा कॉन्क्लेव इज बैक।
शुरू करते हैं NDTV का यूथ कॉन्क्लेव। NDTV युवा।
भारत एक युवा देश है। अगर हम युवा एक हो जाएं, एकजुट हो जाएं, तो दुनिया की कोई ताकत हमें आगे बढ़ने से नहीं रोक सकती।
With India's biggest disruptors.
So when you tried to understand and have conversation with your parents कि मेरा नाम बांसुरी क्या रखा, उन्होंने क्या बताया?
So माँ ने तो बहुत ही स्वीट एक्सप्लेनेशन दी। She said कि कृष्ण की सबसे प्रिय वस्तु पे तुम्हारा नाम रखा गया है।
प्रेजेंट में रहो, अपना कर्म पूरी निष्ठा से करो, फल की चिंता मत करो।
दूसरी थ्रो लगने के बाद जब कोच साहब ने बताया कि 4639 है, तो मैं काफ़ी खुश हुआ। और
सरप्राइज भी हुए थे थोड़ा?
सरप्राइज हुआ था मैं, तब इसीलिए वो मैंने पूछा सर खाओ माँ को सर।
युवा यूथ फॉर चेंज।
लोन मिलेगा या नहीं ये आपके क्रेडिट स्कोर पर डिपेंड करता है। आज ही जाइए पैसाबाजार.com पर और अपना क्रेडिट स्कोर चेक कीजिए फ्री में, क्योंकि लोन की जरूरत किसी को भी कभी भी पड़ सकती है।
चल एक्टिंग थोड़ा भेल बनो।
पैसाबाजार.com।
For every news from every part of the country, डाउनलोड कीजिए NDTV ऐप। सिर्फ एक ऐप जो आपको बताता है क्या हो रहा है इन द वर्ल्ड ऑफ बिजनेस, पॉलिटिक्स, स्पोर्ट्स एंड एंटरटेनमेंट। देखना ना भूलें हमारी मूवी युद्रा इन द थिएटर। Read all about Yudra on the NDTV app. So download now.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
Election sunrise is on the proverbial paradise. Jammu and Kashmir gets set to vote in assembly elections after a gap of 10 years.
For the BJP, it's a referendum on Article 370. For the Congress and region.
Himachal eateries row. Congress tells Vikramaditya to eat his words. Congress has pulled up Himachal Minister Vikramaditya Singh after summoning him to Delhi. Sources say Congress High Command is upset with the minister praising the UP model of displaying details of owners at eateries and food stalls. Super South politics explodes now. Former Andhra Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy cancels his Tirumala visit after being asked to sign a declaration of belief for non-Hindu. Says he got a notice from police saying he didn't have permission and was also threatened with an arrest. Jagan Reddy has claimed he was denied permission, also threatened with arrest, while TDP has denied all the charges. Lokayukta files FIR against Karnataka Chief Minister Sidda. Lokayukta has filed an FIR against Sidda. This is with regard to the Muda case. In an exclusive interaction with NDTV, Lokayukta official has said that law is equal for everyone. In the midst of Muda controversy, Karnataka Chief Minister Sidda remains defiant and steadfast on his decision to not resign. He says he's ready for any probe but will not resign. And he has also asked, did the Prime Minister tender his resignation after the riots as his capacity as the Chief Minister of Gujarat at that time. All up in the air, Supreme Court has pulled up pollution panel. Supreme Court has come down heavily on the Central Air Quality Panel for not taking adequate steps to monitor air quality and curb air pollution in the National Capital Region. In fact, the top court has said that it's all in the air and nothing has been done to show that anti-pollution measures are being controlled. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tirumala again is at the center of a political crossroads. YSR Congress President Jagan Mohan Reddy has cancelled his planned visit to Tirumala temple on Saturday, which was meant to atone for the sin that he said was committed by the Andhra Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu. Jagan Mohan Reddy also said that he was threatened with arrest, but now Chandrababu Naidu is addressing media. He is making some important points. Let's listen in to what he has to say.
ఇప్పుడు ఆయన మాట్లాడేది చూస్తే ఆయనకి ఏ సాకులు ఉన్నాయో నాకు తెలియదు పోకుండా ఉండడానికి. కానీ ఆయన ఏదో నిలిపేశారు, నోటీస్ ఇచ్చారని మాట్లాడుతున్నారు. కెన్ యూ షో ఎనీ నోటీస్? నేను స్ట్రైట్గా అడుగుతాను, నీకు నోటీసులు ఏమైనా ఇచ్చారా? నిన్ను వెళ్ళవద్దని ఎవరైనా చెప్పారా?
Addressing the media, asking whether any notice has been issued to Jagan Mohan Reddy, because he says he's making it seem like there have been notices that have been given, because of which he's unable to go to the Tirumala temple, and Chief Minister saying that there has been no notice that's been given.
ఎందుకంటే ప్రజా జీవితంలో ఉండే మనందరం కొన్ని సాంప్రదాయాలు పాటించాలి.
People in public life
చాలా స్పష్టంగా అడుగుతున్నాను,
should follow the traditions and should follow what needs to be done.
సమాజంలో ఏ మతానికైనా కొన్ని సాంప్రదాయాలు ఉంటాయి, ఆచారాలు ఉంటాయి.
Every religion in society has certain traditions.
గౌరవించి తీరవలసిందే. దేవుని యొక్క ఆచారాలు
If you want to visit a place of worship, you need to respect those traditions.
సమయం గాని ఏ వ్యక్తి గాని గొప్పవాడు కాదు. ఈ విషయం మనం గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది.
No one is above those beliefs and
భక్తుల
traditions.
మనోభావాలను ప్రశ్నించేలా, ధిక్కరించేలాగా ఎవరూ ప్రవర్తించకూడదు. ఇప్పుడు కలియుగ వైకుంఠం.
No one should disrespect the traditions of the God and the beliefs of the devotees.
హిందువులకి అతి పెద్ద
And you cannot act in a manner that is humiliating to both.
అది హిందువులకు అందరికీ ఒక దివ్య క్షేత్రం. ప్రతి ఒక్కరికి ఒక కోరిక, జీవితంలో ఒక్కసారైనా వెంకటేశ్వర
That's a very sacred place for Hindus. He's referring to the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam.
మొక్కులు తీర్చుకోవాలి అనేది ప్రతి ఒక్కరి యొక్క కోరిక. ఇవన్నీ కూడా అది మన రాష్ట్రంలో ఉండడం,
Everyone wants to visit, have a darshan and get their desires, hopes fulfilled.
అత్యంత పవిత్రంగా భావించే ఈ క్షేత్ర పవిత్రత కాపాడవలసిన బాధ్యత ప్రతి ఒక్కరిపైన ఉంది. అలాంటిది
Everyone has a duty to protect the safeguard the sanctity of such a place which is considered extremely sacred by its devotees.
పాటించాలి.
All the rules and regulations of the temple will have to be followed.
కొందరి మనోభావాలు కూడా దెబ్బతినే పరిస్థితి వస్తుంది. అందుకే
The sentiments of the people can be
అతను
heard.
మాట్లాడిన మాటలు చూస్తే నేను వెళ్తాను, అవి కరెక్ట్ కాదు. నేను హితో పలుకుతున్నా, అనుభవంతో.
The way he spoke today is wrong. it hurts the sentiments of the people.
నేను ఎందుకు పోకూడదంటే ఇంత మునుపు మీరు రూల్ వైలేట్ చేస్తే మళ్ళీ చేయాలా?
Well, Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu making some important points there, saying that temples are run by traditions and rules, and these are age-old rules that have to be followed by anybody who wants to visit them. This is in the context of YSR Congress President Jagan Mohan Reddy cancelling his planned visit to Tirumala Temple, which was scheduled to happen tomorrow. Joining me is my colleague Uma Sudeep, who's been tracking this case. Uma, tell us the important takeaways from Chandrababu Naidu's press conference, and also tell us, take us through what really happened today with Jagan Mohan Reddy, and what did he exactly say which warranted Chandrababu Naidu to come out and say all this?
So the Chief Minister, Mr. Chandrababu Naidu, has just about begun his press conference in which he is rebutting the claims of Jagan Mohan Reddy, who seemed to suggest that he was not given permission to go to the Tirupati Devasthanam, and Chandrababu Naidu is saying that it is irresponsible on his part. Is he able to show any notice is a question that he is raising, saying that there is no restriction on Jagan Mohan Reddy to go, but that the rules, traditions, beliefs of the temple and its devotees will have to be respected, and whoever wants to go there will have to follow those traditions, because this is a place that is considered very, very sacred by the devotees of Lord Venkateshwara, and he says those sentiments will have to be respected. You cannot say that I have visited in the past as well, and therefore I should be allowed to visit. All this was triggered by Mr. Jagan Mohan Reddy actually showing certain notices in a press conference that he held earlier today, actually around 3 p.m., 3:30 p.m. this afternoon, in which he said that notices have been issued to all the YSRCP cadres, leaders, sarpanches and MLAs, telling them not to come to Tirumala because the proposed visit of Jagan Mohan Reddy was there, and that the notice had told them that legal action would be taken against them, that cases would be booked against them if they came there, because no permission had been granted for that. While Jagan Mohan Reddy spoke about the issue of declaration, and he said that while he does read the Bible within the four walls of his home, when he steps outside, he can be a Hindu, he can be a Muslim or a Christian, and that he respects all those traditions. And he said that in the past as well, he has multiple times visited the temple. He said he went with the Prime Minister, he has gone with the Governor, he has also gone accompanied the Chief Justice, and at that time no questions were raised, and that the question is being raised now. Of course, Jagan Mohan Reddy was to visit the temple tomorrow in the morning. What I must point out is that there were certain boards that came up in Tirumala. While some boards always existed speaking about the kind of an advisory for non-Hindus that they must give a declaration about their faith and reverence for both the temple as well as the presiding deity. More number of boards had come up today. There is a police force presence had increased in that place, and both Mr. Chandrababu Naidu as well as the BJP Chief Purandeshwari and other leaders had said that he can only enter the temple, or he should enter the temple only after giving a declaration, because he does not happen to be from the Hindu community. So that is what triggered the press conference by Jagan Mohan Reddy, who while talking about the declaration becoming the politics, he suggested that Mr. Chandrababu Naidu was indulging in diversionary politics, as he called it, and he said while diverting people's attention away from the 100 days of rule, he had spoken about the Tirupati Laddu, and that he had made mistakes on that count, and now was talking about the declaration politics. So what I should point out overall is that in a sense, the Hindu identity seems to have taken center stage in Andhra Pradesh, because leaders of Andhra Pradesh, not just from the BJP but also from Telangana, Tamil Nadu, are echoing what Pawan Kalyan has been saying that the Hindu and the Hindu religion is taken lightly, taken for granted. No one dares to talk about Islam or Christianity, and that this is time now for the Hindu, in a sense, to assert their identity and protect what they believe are their values and traditions. Back to you.
Right. Thank you, Uma Sudeep, for joining us with those critical details. Remember that all of this started with Chandrababu Naidu claiming that animal fat was used to make the famous laddus, the Shrivari laddus, which have a legacy of 300 years. He had quoted tests that were done by NDTV, the National Dairy Development Board. These are laddus that are offered as prasad at the shrine, and also to devotees. In fact, there are 3 lakh laddus that are made every day. And of course, today, addressing a press conference, Jagan Mohan Mohan Reddy, who is at the center of the storm and is being blamed for not really looking after the quality of the laddus. He said that he has been denied permission to go to Tirumala. Now, this decision comes, and this has, of course, given lots of ammunition to the TDP. Remember, Jagan Mohan Reddy was the former Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, and he was also supposed to sign a declaration meant for non-Hindus, which the TTD has said that is an existing rule with the temple. Now, the parties have said that according to the rules of the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam, which manages the Tirumala Tirupati temple, foreigners and non-Hindus should declare their reverence to Lord Venkateshwara, to whom the temple is dedicated, just before they visit the shrine. And this is all about following the rules. But is it just about following the rules, or is the problem being escalated for political reasons? That's what we will discuss tonight. Joining me is Satish Reddy of the YSRCP. We also have Professor Jyotsna Tirunagari, who represents the TDP. Thank you so much for joining us, both of. But first, let's listen into what Jagan Mohan Reddy, the former Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, said today.
Probably never in the history of this country, we have ever witnessed such a situation where you actually have a situation where if somebody were to visit a temple, people have been barred from visiting temple. These are the notices. The notices say that the ex-Chief Minister Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy is visiting Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam, and that program does not have the approval of the government. And if any Karyakarta participates in this program, cases would be booked on them.
Okay, let me go across to Professor Jyotsna first. Ma'am, we know that this is an old rule, that's what sources have been telling us, but new signboards have announcing this rule have sprung up ever since the YSR Congress chief announced his visit. Everybody knows that Jagan Mohan Reddy is a Christian.